Just before we get started, though, you might hear a mixed accent. It's a mixture of a Russian accent with South African and a little bit of Canadian. It's a strange accent. But just a quick icebreaker. There's something very common that Canadians and Russians have. What is it? Any guesses? Snow, ice hockey. Yeah, one of the things that we have in common is we have snowball fights. There's a lot of snow and everybody has snowball fights. So right now we're going to have a bit of a snowball fight. Everybody has a piece of paper in front of them. Okay, just before you crumple it. What I want you to do is take a minute, take a pen, and without even thinking, what is the top reason that becomes a barrier for innovation in your organization? Don't even think, just write it down. The top reason, the top obstacle for innovation in your company. You have 10 seconds, literally. I only have 15 minutes. 13 minutes. Okay, ready? Okay, I want you to crumple it up. Squish it. Okay? Now I want you to throw it at me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! Okay, there we go. Okay, what do we have here? Too conservative management. That's a good one. It's very common. Let's take another one. I can't really read that, but structured mind. That's very profound, whoever wrote that. Very good. So what I'm going to do with this, I don't believe in wasting paper. In fact, I'm having a paperless year for the first time ever. I'm not using any paper. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to collect all of these, so just don't do anything with them. I'll write them up, and whoever is interested in getting the list of the things that you have here, I'll send them to you. My email address will be at the end of the presentation, okay? All right. Has everybody seen this before? Anybody seen this before? Okay, so basically this is a two-dimensional image that could be spinning either clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on whether you're right-brained or left-brained dominant. Just a show of hands, who's seeing it spin from left to right, anti-clockwise? Show of hands. And the other way, I'm assuming the rest of you? Are some of you seeing her spin both ways? Geniuses, all of you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about a fish. It's a beautiful fish, but it's a very sad, beautiful fish. The reason why it's sad is that it's destined for the canned tuna section of the grocery store. It's a very sad end for anyone, let alone a beautiful fish like this. And one of the major reasons why it's a sad end is that it's a declining category where our client was faced with a major challenge. They're a leader in the category, they're a market leader in a declining category, and they still need to grow. So they tried looking for white space. And that can be really scary, especially for a canned seafood manufacturer. And they tried a bunch of things, and they came up with an innovation. It was microwavable pouches. Fish in microwavable pouches that you could just put in your microwave. It warms it up. They took the product off the market. It failed. And they came to us with an interesting challenge. And to respond to that challenge, we believe in looking not for white space, but looking for right space. Right space isn't only the space that you are confident and inspired about as a team, but it's the space that optimally connects with the consumer across all the dimensions of conscious and subconscious thought, as well as being credible, ownable, and differentiating and rewarding for your business. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, I'm going to start with a story about a brand that has lost its right space. And just to show you a couple of ways in which we looked at it. This is BlackBerry. And most of you are familiar with the story, but let me take you back to 2009, when BlackBerry was a successful brand. It has a large profile, a large leading brand, with all the core equities that drive the consumer impulse to act. In 2012, however, they've lost all of their equity. As you can see, a lot of negativity on the outside of the map. We'll be looking at these maps quite a bit. So I just want to ask you guys for a favor. Let's pretend that you believe all the science that underpins these maps, because I don't have the time to take you through it, but would love to do that at another time. But anyway, that's a big shift of a brand that's lost its way. And if you compare the share price between 2009, end of 2009 to 2012, you can really see why. And these maps become a really useful diagnostic for understanding exactly why you're performing the way you are as a brand. And here's a brand who's really nailed its white space. It didn't start off that way, because when Febreze was first launched by P&G, it was considered a dud. It was considered a failure. And they were able to turn this brand around by really understanding the habits and rituals that it serves in people's lives. The insight was, after doing all sorts of different immersion and in-home understanding and observation, the insight was that Febreze was almost the reward for a job well done. It was what you do, it was your ritual at the end of your chore. Upon completion, it was the reward for completing that chore. And that turned the brand around. In fact, after 2 months, they had immediate results after relaunching the brand. And after the first year, it became a $230 million business. And that's the heat map of Febreze. Again, a very strong brand. This is one of the best new product concepts that we've ever tested. An extremely strong profile with no negativity or very little to speak of, and extremely differentiating brand personality in this calm, polite, patient, family-oriented, loyal space that's also sincere, but is also special, inspiring, successful, active, creative, trendy. Okay. So from something that makes things smell good to something that makes things smell bad. And one of the biggest barriers with canned seafood and with fish preparation in general, as we identified in our research, was that fish is difficult to work with, and it's sometimes awkward, sometimes disgusting. So what should we do to help our fish find its right space? So what we start with in our typical innovation journey, and everybody has an innovation process, the way ours is different is that we embed the emotional measurement tools throughout the process. And where we start with is a stakeholder projective technique that we use our emotional cards, basically attributes printed on cards, that are laid on the table, and our stakeholders basically use it as a projective technique to explain the attributes and the positioning that they ideally would like to target, looking at their competitors, looking at all sorts of considerations. And we map those. We identify the target attributes that our stakeholders are keen to explore. We take that into quantitative testing, where we basically measure all the other hundreds of attributes in surveys. And again, I'm not going to explain the science behind that. And we produce the heat maps. So this is the heat map of the category in general, right? Of how people feel about canned tuna. So you can see why it's a declining category. People are feeling tired, disappointed, bored, disgusted, frustrated, etc. So what we want to do is take this category, or this brand in this declining category, from this to more of that. That's not a simple process. It's not answered by one step, but it starts with large-scale quant, where we identify the potential of making any one of those changes. So if you're dialing up an emotion, what is the outcome? What is the potential share or the mind share that you can gain by dialing up that emotion? And that is the same approach that we take across emotions, brand personalities, rational attributes, and need states. Upon that analysis, we compare that to what is actually credible and ownable for your brand, and we identify the right set of attributes, and we place them basically on the map. We combine that quantitative learning with consumer learning, in-home immersions, flip cam, documentaries and diaries, ethnographies. We look at other categories where we can borrow insights, insight piracy, where other categories have innovated successfully with similar constraints. We look at the shopper, shop-alongs, sales data, in-store observation. And we obviously look at the business and its capabilities. That nets out at the right space. It's a big undertaking for a canned tuna manufacturer, but here was the outcome. We identified 3 particular spaces, 2 of which were blue ocean spaces that were creating basically a new category, and one of them was a much larger but red ocean space where even though it was a bigger size of prize, the category was extremely competitive. It was an existing category versus these 2 other smaller opportunities in a category that did not exist. So I'm just going to flip through these next few slides just to say, just to get to the conclusion. We're going to look at one of those spaces that we identified and just explore it in a little bit of detail. So how do people feel about this space? Well, the types of emotions that occur in space are alive, interested, excited, fascinated, turned on, and surprised. What do people associate in terms of brand personalities? Passionate, interested, optimistic, extroverted, creative, outdoor. In terms of the rational side of things, we're dealing with a food product, so you need to understand what kind of R&D attributes to inform in your concept. So is it visually appealing, important ingredients, exotic seasonings, sea salt, spicy? Obviously, I'm not going into a lot of detail without revealing too much, but basically we can map the emotional resonance of flavors and fragrances to supplement your understanding of the positioning for the concept. And in our stimulus library, we also brought to the table examples of packaging designs that evoke those emotions, the types of advertising, the types of archetypes, etc. And so we informed the brief with these stimuli, and these are 2 of the concepts that came back. One concept was targeting more of the engagement and different and unique positioning. It was basically a concept that was based in variety and a wide range of different flavors, things like Louisiana shrimp and miso glazed cod, etc. And the other was more centered around convenience. It was making the fish easy to work with. It could be ready from fridge to plate in 8 minutes. And this is the profile of the winning concept, the concept that was launched in market. And as you can see, it's a profile of a very successful brand. This brand did not exist when the concept was tested. It's got a strong core profile. It's almost complete. In fact, it is complete. And it's creating inertia and differentiation into this zone of interest, optimism, and self-confidence without losing equities around being convenient. So a better end for a beautiful tuna fish. And we have just over a minute if anybody has any questions. Thanks. I just have one thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, hello. My name is Natalie and I work for Mondelez International. I have a question for you because when I threw my ball to you, I wrote an proven commercial success because I think this is what the companies are looking for. There is the front end of innovation, which is really important to prove it works. And I think that your process is very clear in pointing out which are the likely opportunities for a brand to position and create really compelling concepts for consumers. Now, tell me more about your experience working in the sort of proving to a client that's value to their business from a commercial standpoint, because I think this is the likely barrier that you're going to find when selling this kind of well-designed concept. If it doesn't prove to be a commercial viable thing for the VPs, for the C-suites guys, this is not going to crack. So just comment a little bit around it.
Yeah, that thinking is built into the entire process, starting from the beginning. our aim to embed these research steps along the way throughout the innovation journey is to basically almost guarantee that the end will be, at the end you're going to have a breakthrough. Because if you're eliminating risk and you're reducing any variability that might come as a result of things that you didn't measure or didn't know, we're eliminating all of that by measuring everything that people feel right from the outset and deciding what does that space look like in terms of how people feel and what they think. And we design towards that. At the end, there is concept testing, and in some cases, our clients test concepts with other vendors, but we provide a seamless transition into that process as well. The best way that we can help them make more business sense in terms of the business value to the bottom line of the company is where we quantify the potential impact of dialing up a specific emotional state, so that they know that the space that they're going into is fertile and feasible. They know what their potential share will be if they dial up associations in that space. And our innovation process is built to design concepts to deliver to that space. Does that answer your question? Okay, just, I've got, oh, I'm out of time. I've got one more second. Just one more thought, guys. We're at an Insights Innovation Conference, and this is just a metaphor for how we think about the insights industry as it relates to innovation. You guys are all familiar with the film The Matrix, right? Anybody not familiar? Okay. So in The Matrix, there's a very famous scene where basically Neo is sitting in front of Morpheus, and Morpheus is offering him a red pill and a blue pill. And it's become almost like a pop culture symbol, well, when the film was released, about thinking about reality or the blissful ignorance of reality and sometimes the painful realizations of reality. So what we think in terms of the insights industry that we absolutely are at a crossroads. We've been talking about that for a long time. But we believe in basically informing you with these types of tools. And we're hoping that together with our partners, we partner with FlyFrog in Brazil, Rodrigo Tony's group. We're hoping that you'll have a conversation with us about disruptive innovation. We've been working on this for quite a while. There's a lot of other application to emotional science, and we'd love to have that conversation with you guys. We'd love for you guys to take the red pill and come and talk to us. Thank you.